Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Inside Inter Miami. I'm your host, Andre Fernandez, joined as always by Michelle Kaufman, and we are back with another jam-packed episode. We are still here. This is not our season
Episode
finale.
102,
102.
102,
You're,
episode
you're going to keep
102.
counting after 100. I know that
Right.
for a while.
That's right.
But we are back. This is not our season finale, and that's because it was not the season finale for Inter Miami this past Saturday. They made sure to take care of business emphatically, taking out Nashville in the decisive third game of that first round series. They're on their way to the Eastern Conference semifinals. Not yet. They're going to play at this point, by the time you're watching and hearing this, a week and a half at Cincinnati. So we'll talk a lot about that. We'll talk a lot about the way Miami routed Nashville decisively. 2 goals by Lionel Messi, 2 braces, one by him and one by Tadeo Allende in the second half, in spite of not having Luis Suarez, who was suspended by MLS for that game. And we'll dive into why exactly that happened. Was it warranted or not? And all the controversy surrounding that. And then we'll look ahead, like we said before, to the Cincinnati game, which happens after this little FIFA window that the league is going through now for the next week or so. And we'll talk a little bit about Michelle's experience at American Airlines Arena recently for the American Business Forum, where Lionel Messi took the stage and did an interview with the mayor of Miami a few hours after President Trump and other dignitaries spoke that day. And once again, Apple TV was nice enough to lend us one of their voices. Apple TV analyst Jake Zivin is going to join us as a special guest on this episode. But let's dive right in. Luis Suarez, Michelle, suspended for that game. Miami still was able to persevere, get the victory. A big reason was Matteo Silvetti. But let's talk first about what exactly happened with Suarez, and was it a warranted suspension?
Yeah, I mean, it came as a surprise last Wednesday. The team was getting ready, and they were informed. Well, they were informed on Monday, but we found out on Wednesday that Nashville, the Nashville club, even though they won the game 2 at Nashville, they petitioned the league to the MLS disciplinary committee and sent in video of Luis Suarez kicking Andy Nahar, and said that they wanted them to review that, even though it was in the run of play. The referee was there, VAR was there, and nothing was ruled. There was not even a foul. There wasn't a foul call. There was no card issued during the game. Nashville won the game, but they chose to petition that play and have the league look at it. And so the disciplinary committee looked at it. They deemed that it was red card worthy, and they slapped him with a red card and a 1-game suspension and a fine. And so that suspension took place in the very decisive game 3, which obviously did not sit well with Javier Mascherano, with anybody on that team, with anyone within the club. They were all pretty upset about it. They accepted it. They said they accepted the decision. They respected the decision, but they disagreed with it. And Mascherano was sort of suggesting that maybe that they were singled out. Has this ever happened before during the playoffs, especially after a game is over 3 days, 4 days later, that the league comes out and says, oh, sorry, this person is being red carded and can't play the next game during the playoffs. He said it was a particular concern to him because it was during the playoffs, a very important game. I did do some research with MLS and found out that, yes, there had been a couple of instances, not too many, but there had been a few instances of suspensions during the playoffs. It was for more egregious things, to be honest. It was more, like racial insensitivity on the field and things like that. Inciting a fight, like a brawl. They were not like a single kick in the run of play. So in my opinion, it was too harsh of a penalty for what it was. He did kick him. There is no question. They're running, they're in the box. He kicks him. He does a kick out from the back and kicks Nahar in the thigh. But it was not in my opinion, it was not a very serious, violent play. It was nothing like when he was spitting, in Seattle, or anything like that, where someone was in a brawl or spitting or doing something really egregious. I did not find it to be an egregious penalty. It probably should have been called for something, maybe, but to give him a red card, you know, after the game is over, many days later, it seemed harsh to me. As it turned out, it made no difference. And in fact, some people who have been complaining about Suarez this season will say that they benefited from him not being on the field. There are people who are in that
Yeah.
camp. So, I don't know. What did you think, Andre? What did you
Uh,
think of the play and
I,
what did you
I,
think of the suspension?
I was gonna say it did make a difference, but just the other way. Maybe not the way people thought in a damaging sense. That offense was humming. I mean, they were clicking. Early on, everything was flowing. I mean, the chemistry there, we know, between Allende and Messi, and then Matteo Silvetti's been, it was expected. He's a young kid, 19 years old. How much was he going to do right out of the chute? We've seen him do it at the level that he plays, with the age group that he plays, but to do it the way he has been impressive too. The suspension itself, yeah, I think the part of not, it seemed like it was handled initially, and then this comes up after the fact was a little weird, but is what it is. I think this team was able to find a way to move forward. They were motivated. They looked like it, and they took care of business like they had to, especially against a team that was the fourth time in a row that they were playing them. Sick of them already. We saw it at the beginning. You and
I
I were
think,
sitting. You and I were sitting together at the
yes,
stadium, and one of the first things you told me, you're like, "This is going to be spicy today. This is going to be chippy." We saw some pushing. We saw, a
right
little bit
away
of
from the start.
some
Yep.
chirping going on, but to their credit, there were a couple of yellow cards toward the end in the second half, but nothing crazy happened. No fights, things of that nature.
Yeah,
So
I expected maybe, to be honest, in hindsight, I will admit it, I will confess, I
yeah,
thought that someone from Miami was going to get in trouble because
yeah,
they were really fired up for this game. Not only were they sick of playing Nashville, but they did not want to be embarrassed 2 years in a row. They had their pride was on the line. The
yeah,
season was on. I wrote in my story, the season was on the line and their pride was on the line because they last season were very embarrassed to be,
yeah,
eliminated on their home field by the number 9 seed when they were the top seed all season, the top team in the league. So there was a lot riding on this game. And then, believe me, they were personally offended that Luis Suarez was thrown out of the game in such an important game. And for whatever the fans think about him, his teammates really do respect him. He's a legend who has so much experience, and everyone says he does more. The people with inside the club say that he does a lot more than, even when he's not scoring, he's still assisting, he's still a team leader. He
right,
has a lot of experience. If it went to PKs, he's good at PKs. So they didn't have him. But the team really did. There was a different dynamic without him. And the dynamic is that Matteo Silvetti has speed. Matteo Silvetti is 19 years old, and he was able to get behind the defense really fast. And Jordi Alba on Messi's goal, Jordi Alba sent that ball long to Silvetti, who was there and had the wherewithal to, very smart play to then, cut it back to Messi, who was wide open in front of the goal and scored.
yeah,
So I don't know that that play would have happened exactly the same if Luis Suarez was in there. It may have, but Luis would not have been in that position as fast as Silvetti was because of just the age and speed difference. So it was a different dynamic having Messi in the middle and being flanked by Allende and Silvetti, as opposed to the way it usually is, which is, Luis Suarez up top as a forward and Messi a little bit behind. It was a different
yeah.
look. And you know what? It worked. And Javier Mascherano said after, we're going to hear from him in a minute, but he said that they played a near perfect game. And for a coach to say that, coaches don't say that. And
And
especially he has not.
yeah,
He's been critical of their team much of the year, even when they win. And for him to say we played a near perfect game, and they played it without Suarez. And now the big question is, going into the Cincinnati game, what do you do? Is Suarez going to start? Do you just put him right back in the starting lineup? Or do you go with the team that
he
played
had
the near perfect game and won 4-0 over,
Yeah.
in the decisive game.
Well, and then on the defensive side, this was again. I mean, I remember they didn't get the clean sheet in game one, but pretty much did because that last goal was in literally the final minute out of 10 stoppage
Right.
minutes and meaningless. But this defense has played well for the most part, other than maybe one half in this, played well in that series. Can they carry that over? And how much of that is a part of the look that they had in these games, especially in this third game? I mean,
Well,
they're a
Silvetti
rare
helps
clean sheet.
defend. Silvetti
Right.
Silvetti helps defend.
That's
I saw
that,
him several times. If you were
right.
watching him, he goes all over the field. He's 19 years old. He has boundless energy. He's big, he's strong, and he's fast. And so he brings a different dynamic than Luis Suarez. Clearly, he's not Luis Suarez. I'm not suggesting he's equal to the legendary Luis Suarez, who has scored so many goals and played in so many huge games. He's a big legend. He's an incredible player. But at this point in time, in the games that they have to play in MLS, which we have mentioned are about speed and physicality, you know, if you're the coach now and you're Javier Mascherano, he's got, I think, a tough decision to make. However, Lionel Messi also has a bit of a say, I think, in who plays next to him.
A lot.
And it'll be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see because he clearly does like Silvetti. Silvetti is from his hometown. He's from Rosario. He's
Yep.
from the area. He's from Messi's neighborhood. Messi did embrace him very lovingly with that goal. And so he clearly loves the kid, but Luis Suarez is his best friend or one of his closest friends. So it's going to be interesting to
Yeah.
see what happens in the next game.
Let's hear what Javier Mascherano had to say about the Game 3 victory.
Buenas noches, Javier. Muchas felicitaciones por la victoria. ¿Puedes hablar en general de la importancia de esta victoria y también de la decisión de poner a Silvetti y cómo viste cómo jugó esta noche Silvetti? Gracias.
Bueno, muchas gracias. Creo que bueno que el equipo hizo un partido casi perfecto, ¿no? No digo perfecto porque obviamente siempre hay cosas por mejorar, pero estuvimos en un nivel muy pero muy alto en todas las líneas, muy intensos desde el primer minuto, muy organizados y muy bien en la presión alta. La realidad es que nada, muy agradecido a estos jugadores porque bueno, más allá de que quizás el otro día nos fuimos con una sensación amarga en Nashville, entendimos a la perfección lo que nos jugábamos hoy, la importancia de poder poner al club en un lugar y en una fase que nunca había estado. Y bueno, y realmente han hecho un trabajo muy pero muy bueno. Y en líneas generales creo que obviamente Toto Silvetti ha jugado un gran partido, no ha sido muy muy importante en esa presión alta. También puede tener la pelota con los desmarques en profundidad. Pero creo que hoy nombrar un solo jugador sería muy injusto. Creo que cuando el equipo tiene este nivel, creo que hay que nombrar al equipo en sí. Y cuando digo el equipo, no solamente son los 11 que entran desde el inicio, sino es todo el plantel, ¿no? Porque durante toda la semana estuvimos entrenando y con la cabeza metida en lo que nos había pasado en Nashville, en cómo revertirlo, y bueno, hoy ellos han tenido su premio.
Okay, so he said, Javier Mascherano said, that the team played a near perfect game. He said, I don't say perfect because there's always something to improve, but they did play a near perfect game. He said that they played at a very high level at every position on all their lines, very high level. He was very impressed that they were very intense from the very first minute, from the opening whistle, the high press. He was really impressed with how they pressed high. He said he was grateful for the players that even though they left the Nashville game in Nashville with a bitter feeling, they fully understood what was at stake and how important this game was, how historic it was for a chance for the club to move to another phase that they had never advanced to before, and that they executed to perfection, near perfection. As far as Silvetti, he said he played a great game. He, again, very important, especially in the high press with his deep runs and the way he pressed. He said, but I do think it would be unjust to single out one player, because when a team plays this well, this victory belonged to the entire team. And he said everybody did their part and worked so hard all week and had their heads in the game. And so he didn't want to single out one player. He said that this is a game that you have to give credit to the entire roster.
Yeah, it was a balanced effort. And, again, we're going back to the big picture, beyond just the game itself, beyond the field. Monumental win. I mean, and again, and it's not over, because, yes, this is now, you couldn't have that level of a disastrous loss again with the investment that, not just the embarrassment and the pride, the investment they've made. This is it for Boosie. This is it for Alba. I know Messi's re-signed. He's coming back. But still, they've put a lot into putting this quote-unquote super team of stars together. You couldn't have it go out with a flicker again in the first round. Granted, you turn around and lose to Cincinnati, it's still going to sting because you still came up short of winning the MLS title and whatnot. But now you start to progress a little bit. Now it's at least a little bit. You're kind of sort of.
It's a little bit better, but still,
a little bit better. But it's still.
What this means right now is that they're one of the top 8 teams in the league. With this roster, a $47 million roster, with their ownership group saying the minute Messi got here that they're here to win trophies. They're here to win trophies. If they leave this season with no trophies, and last year the only trophy they got was the Supporters Shield, they didn't win a tournament trophy. Last year, they didn't. If they don't win a tournament trophy this year, that is falling far short of expectations when the owner, Jorge Mas, was saying, we are here to win trophies. We're investing all this money for all these top players, and we are here to collect trophies. They want to fill their trophy cabinet. And right now, there's a Leagues Cup from 2023 and a Supporters Shield. That's it. That's all that's in their trophy cabinet. It's not enough. With this roster, my opinion, this is not enough. And yes, they advanced to the second round. They did it emphatically. It was a wonderful win for the club. Not taking anything away. That was a wonderful win. They played really well all across the board. But if they lose in the second round, if they lose in the conference semifinal,
that's my point. Still not good.
Yeah, it's not good enough. It's better, but it's not good enough.
Yeah, they're kind of like they're working their way out of the pit of like that. It's okay, one notch up. That's it. Now next, who's next? And then next is Cincinnati, which we'll get to later. The team that already beat them pretty badly in Cincinnati earlier this year and had a draw, so they haven't beaten Cincinnati. But we'll dive into that later in the show. Tadeo Allende discussed his improved play of late.
We had
another Mascherano clip. I'm sorry about that.
We have another clip. We have another clip from Mascherano.
Coach wants to talk
about what
big picture.
Big picture. Here we go.
Yep.
En esta fase también me pone contento por el club en sí, porque bueno, después de quizás lo que pasó el año pasado había quedado un poco en el ambiente y se notaba ese temor de que podía volver a pasar. Y creo que ahora no hay nada mejor que mirar hacia adelante. Eso ya quedó en el pasado, en el olvido, y poder mirar hacia adelante. No soy tampoco de demostrar mucho, ni tampoco de irme de un extremo al otro. Esto sigue para nosotros ahora poder descansar un poco, aprovechar la fecha FIFA, nada, desearle a los jugadores que se tienen que ir, que tengan una buena fecha FIFA con sus selecciones. Lo más importante para nosotros es que vuelvan sanos, y después empezar a preparar una semifinal de conferencia que va a ser muy pero muy dura. Esa es la realidad, contra un rival que en el duelo individual estamos por debajo en la temporada regular, pero que el partido de vuelta que jugamos acá me quedé con muy buenas sensaciones y bueno, vamos a ir a buscar con mucha ilusión la posibilidad de entrar en una final de conferencia por primera vez en la historia.
So yeah, first of all, Javier Mascherano said that he was, one of the main things going out of that game the other day is that he felt very happy for the club, because he said after what happened last year, even though he wasn't there, he said after what happened last year, he felt like there was a lingering feeling that you could almost feel with this team that it could happen again. And that there was a bit of a cloud, a bit of a worry, like, what if this happens again? He said, now that's over. That's forgotten. That's in the rear view. That's in the past. And now this club can truly look forward, He said, we're not done. The season goes on for us. We now have a really tough conference semifinal. He said, first of all, about the FIFA window, he said, we get a little break now. During the FIFA window, the players that are gone, we wish them the best. By the way, there are 6 players that are gone, 7 players, Messi and 6 other teammates. So 7 players altogether gone, which I'll talk about. Anyway, he said, we wish them the best. We need them to come back healthy. That's the most important thing. And then he said, then we're going to face a semifinal opponent that's going to be very, very tough. And in the regular season, Cincinnati has the edge because Cincinnati beat them 3-0. And then up there, so the last time Miami played up there, they lost 3-0. And then they played here and tied 0-0. So, it was
no win and no goals,
they have
right?
not been. They have not scored against them.
They have not scored against them either. So that's worrisome.
They have not
a little
scored.
Bit. But it was a while back. This team is now in playoff form, looking a little different, playing a little different.
Right.
We'll see. But yeah, the scary part is always with these FIFA breaks is like, okay, don't have a catastrophic injury and without even playing in a game for your club, and that's the suspense that everybody's in for a week until this resumes next week. So
right. Yeah, but yeah, we'll get into that in a minute. We're going to just hear from a couple of players, Tadeo Allende, about the game he had, because there has been quite a bit of criticism of Tadeo Allende, and I heard some people groaning when he was in the starting lineup for the game the other day, and then guess what? He goes and scores 2 goals. And he has been playing better of late, so we're going to hear from him discussing that, and then we're also going to hear from Noah Allen before we move on to Cincinnati. Let's hear from Tadeo Allende first.
Una pregunta, empezando en agosto, tuviste una racha de más o menos 8 partidos sin meter gol, pero los próximos 10 tienes 7 goles en 10 partidos. Está increíble. No sé si son cosas del fútbol, así es el fútbol, o hiciste algo, cambiaste algo, no sé.
Bueno, a ver, las rachas y las sequías son habituales en los futbolistas, ¿no? Sí, hay mucho trabajo personal. El trabajo fue notorio, con psicólogo, con coach, con entrenamiento en la cancha, con todo, y creo que bueno, de a poco se van notando los cambios y digamos, el fruto del trabajo, y bueno, vengo con una racha buena.
Además, habitualmente eres uno de los puntas por extremo, un lugar más retrasado. ¿Qué te pidió Javier para el partido de hoy? Y mira, jugando más retrasado sigue la racha goleadora.
Bueno, sí que estoy mucho en el frente de ataque y marcando goles y jugando por fuera, ¿no? Este partido al principio me tocó jugar un poco más adelantado, lo que no se vio mucho igual, pero después hicieron un cambio donde metieron un lateral que tenía más protección y bueno, tenía que bajar a defender y me costó un poco más en lo físico, que tuve que trabajar un poco más ahí, pero me sentí bien y bueno, también llegando al gol como siempre.
So yeah, Andre was there for that interview with Tadeo in the mix zone, and he said that streaks, streaks are common in soccer. Soccer players have to deal with that kind of thing. And he said that he has worked really hard. He said with psychologists, he's been working with sports psychologists, with coaches, with his on-field training. And he said, little by little, gradually, he's noticed the differences, and that he's been scoring many goals in the last several weeks. And he said that this is all sort of the fruits of his labor and his hard work. And then he talked about how he had been, up until this point, he had been playing a little bit more on the wings. And in this, a little bit further back in this game, he played a little bit forward at the beginning of the game, because they really did have Messi kind of as a false nine with two wingers on the two sides of him. And so he said then he had to change, though, because when Nashville brought in a fullback, he had to then defend a little bit more and he had to play a little differently. But basically what he said is that he was happy. He had worked very hard to improve, and he is finally seeing, he's seeing the results of all of that hard work. So that's what he had to say. And then we've mentioned about the defense. A lot of the attention is going to Messi and to Allende, Silvetti, all these people. But let's, give a shout out to Rocco, who they continue to do well with Rocco in goal, and the back line with Noah Allen and Ian Frey. Ian Frey was really the one who got the first Messi goal started. He's the one who was pressuring and was able to get the ball away from Nashville, which led to Messi's goal. So let's hear what Noah Allen had to say.
We really wanted to make history today, and now the job's not done. We move on to the next round.
Was that something you guys talked about? Was same scenario, someone sort of being at home and avoiding the mistakes from last year?
Yeah, of course. Last year stung. It hurt really bad. I mean, carried with me going into the offseason. It sucked, man. And to win tonight, to make history in the stadium, as we go into Miami Freedom Park next year, it's a very nice feeling.
What did you see tonight, one against Columbus, and it's now your rival in the semifinals? How do you see that game? They're one of the most strongest teams in MLS, besides you guys.
Yeah, they're a good team, but we have high expectations for ourselves, and we're going to go into the match winning, and yeah.
What are your takeaways to win in this fashion, 4-0, with the fans chanting all day at the end? You guys just winning in a convincing manner.
Yeah, last game was very disappointing in Nashville. We didn't play our best, and we wanted to come out and make a statement that we're a team, like I said, with high expectations, high quality. We want to score goals, we want to keep the ball, and we want to win games. That's the ultimate goal. We really wanted to come out and just win this game.
So you see again just how motivated they were. And he said it really stung last year that the players who were there last year, they were still feeling it, and they played like it. I mean, they really, you can't really say much about, there's not much to criticize. I know there's always the critics out there, but they played great. They really did. They played really well on both ends of the field. And, there was one goal that I know the Nashville fans were a little upset that was disallowed for a foul, but other than that, I mean, even if they, the VAR looked at it, they said that it was a clear foul where he stepped, the player, I think it was Surridge, stepped on defender's foot. So that was, they didn't feel that needed to be reviewed any further. And even if it was one goal and they won 4-0, I know the game can change dynamics and so on, but I think they were clearly the better team. Yeah.
Yeah. Three goals allowed in 3 games, only 2 consequential goals, really, and that's a good job on defense. When you look at this team, how many goals they gave up during the season, how many times they were victimized on counterattacks and leaving guys open in front of the net. This was a good series for them, and it's a good confidence booster for that defense for sure. So
absolutely.
As we mentioned before, we have a guest ready to go here on our show. Joining us this week from Apple TV, Jake Zivin is nice enough to join us today. Jake, how you doing? Thanks for joining us on Inside Inter Miami.
Hey, Michelle, Andre, great to be here. As we say in the U.S., or at least in Sports Talk Radio, long-time listener, first-time caller. I'm glad to be here on Inside Inter Miami.
Appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you. It's great to have you. I looked up your background. You've obviously been doing this for a long time. You're with Portland for many years, and you got your start. You worked your way from the bottom, kind of like Yannick Bright. You were the Yannick Bright of broadcasting. Yeah. You were. Jake started off and running the clock and the scoreboard or something right at the beginning for ESPN.
Yeah, that's right.
So
it's like we call it the bug in TV parlance. So it's just what you see on the screen when you're watching a game that has the score and the time and all that. Yeah, when I was 20, I was in the truck for the ESPN MLS Game of the Week.
And look at you now.
Look, yeah, it's wild. I pinch myself. I can't believe it, to be honest. Like thinking back to sitting in the back bench of the truck, wanting to one day be, the person calling the games, but not really thinking that was feasible or possible because, I don't know. I'm not someone who had that kind of confidence at 20 years old. But to be here now, it's been great. And we spent a lot of time in Fort Lauderdale over the past 3 years, and it's been thrilling. We spent a lot of time on the road with Inter Miami as well. And it's been obviously just what a time for MLS, what a time for Inter Miami, and curious to see where this 2025 story, how it continues for Inter Miami.
Yeah, well, we were just talking. We want your take on it. What do you think about this Miami team, where they are right now, what they did to Nashville, what's ahead with Cincinnati? I mean, is this a team that is going to reach the top? Is this a team that's going to fall short again? I mean, how do you see the team playing right now?
I mean, I think you can never if you're to just use betting, like you never bet against Inter Miami. Like look at the roster, look at Lionel Messi. But last year was surprising. It surprised everybody. Of course, that was the biggest upset in the history of Major League Soccer, and it was done to a team that just felt so inevitable. I mean, last year's Inter Miami team, you felt they were going to find a way to win every single game because they pretty much did throughout the regular season. Even when Messi was hurt, when Suarez wasn't there, they just won games. Leo Alfonso down 2 men, scoring a goal in Philly. And that's why, to me, it was so surprising when they lost that game 3 to Atlanta, because even when they went down 2-1, they'll be fine. And even when it was 3-2, they'll be fine because they had been all year long. And I don't know that they felt that themselves. But I think that Inter Miami in game 3 this year, to me, seemed a little more locked in and focused for the whole 90 minutes. And last year, I'm sure was a lesson for them because they also scored first early in that game against Atlanta last year, just like they did against Nashville. The difference was they didn't have any kind of lapses in defense. They didn't allow Nashville that room behind that they allowed Atlanta, and they were comprehensive for 90 minutes. Maybe the most impressive game of the year for them. I mean, let's take away like Porto in the Club World Cup. The press was great from the start for them.
Yeah.
Nashville couldn't deal with it. And that's not usually what we see from Inter Miami. So,
well, how much was that? We talked about, Jake, about the fact that Luis Suarez was not in the game. There are people who say this team, when Mascherano said we played a near perfect game, he hasn't said that all year. He talked about the extra dynamic that having Silvetti and Allende along, flanking Messi, you don't have that when his best friend Luis Suarez is playing. Do you think that they could have played that same game and that same high press style with Suarez?
Probably not, right? And that's okay, because when Luis Suarez is there, you have one of the best strikers of his generation on the field, and he can do special things that nobody else on the field, other than maybe, Lionel Messi, can do. It's an interesting discussion, and in kind of some, text threads, group threads that I have with other MLS folk, we were kind of not lamenting, but we were saying, man, if this were like the NFL, there would be nonstop talk for the next 2 weeks of should Miami start Luis Suarez in Cincinnati,
right,
and there will be that talk, right, within the MLS ecosystem, and it's a fascinating discussion. I think he's going to start that game. I think there's zero doubt in my mind that he will. But the question of whether or not he should, it's an interesting one, isn't it? Because they looked. The press was different. It was better, and it was done in a way that they can't do if they have a Luis Suarez on the field instead of a young 19, 20-year-old Matteo Silvetti, who I think is a really good player, by the way. And that changed what they could do defensively and how they could pressure Nashville. So it's definitely a decision for Javier Mascherano to make, but I think we'd all be shocked, right, if Suarez isn't starting in a conference semifinal. There's no way he's not going to. But it's something to talk about for the next couple of weeks.
Jake, you saw those first 2 matchups between them and Cincinnati. And I'm sure you saw how Cincinnati just, especially in the first matchup, just dominated. Obviously, this team looks this Inter Miami team is playing a little differently now, like you've just talked about. How do you kind of see Cincinnati approaching this and, just the matchup?
Yeah, I think throw out the game at Chase Stadium. That was the game that Messi and Jordi Alba were suspended
were both
for
out.
missing the All-Star game, yada, yada. Wasn't a great game. Miles Robinson scores at the end, and it's called for a foul on Noah Allen. Cincinnati probably feel like they should have won goal should have stood, and that they should have won the game. If they do, by the way, then they're the Supporters Shield winners. But yeah, the game on July 16th at TQL Stadium is probably more instructive towards this game. They're a little different as well. It was Dado Valenzuela starting instead of Kevin Denke in that game, who was injured. Valenzuela is a South Florida kid. He was in Inter Miami's academy before leaving for Cincinnati's academy in the pandemic, and he scored a goal in that game, and it was a big moment for him. But now it's without a doubt going to be Kevin Denke. They've got a really good front three in Denke and Brenner and Evander that they're not a team that overwhelms you for 90 minutes. Like the best Columbus Crew teams where they're coming at you and you got to really hold them off, or like Miami was, to be honest, in game 3. But they're a team with big players. And I tend to think come playoff time in these games, the big players are the ones who win you games. Miami have those. They have Messi, they have Jordi, they have Suarez, Rodrigo de Paul, these guys who've played in huge games. Busquets, he's not a match winner in the sense of scoring a goal, maybe an assist. And Cincinnati do as well. I mean, they can maybe match Miami as far as that's concerned in MLS better than any other team. Evander is a special player. If Messi's not in the league, he's considered, Messi is by far the best player in the league. There's not a doubt there, but now you're just underneath. Who's that next tier? Evander is in that discussion, an MVP finalist now 2 years in a row. He's got a little connection with Brenner, his fellow Brazilian who's back. Denke, who's a Togolese international, has scored big goals for them. They haven't quite clicked yet. Evander, Denke, even in Brenner, the three, but there's enough there that they find ways to score. They won 16 games by 1 goal in the regular season, which is by far the most of any team in MLS. They won both of their round 1 games that they won against Columbus by 1 goal. So they're a team that is, despite all their talent, have been unable to blow teams out. One of the notable exceptions was July 16th, 3-0 over Inter Miami. But they know how to win tight games, especially at home, TQL Stadium. So I think it'll be tight. I think it'll be close. I think it'll be a great game, and I think it'll come down to the moments, as these playoff games, so often do. But Cincinnati's a really good team and very deserved of being in this spot.
I was going to ask about playing in Cincinnati. I've been there, and I'll be there for this one too. That, can you talk about the atmosphere there? Also, it's going to be cold. It's going to be, another 10 days or whatever from now, it's going to be cold. Their fans are not going to be wearing pink. They don't have a big pink contingent there to see Messi. They are there to see their team. Yep. It's going to be really cold. And Miami has 7 players on national team duty right now, including Messi and Rodrigo de Paul are going to Angola. They're going to Africa. They're not around the corner. And Noah Allen is in Greece. And, these guys are all over the globe, scattered around. How do you think those things, as far as, intangibles go?
Yeah, look, that's something that every team is that has internationals, which most teams in MLS, especially that are still alive, do. Cincinnati will have players traveling as well all over the world. But yeah, look, Messi and DePaul, those guys know how to travel and go back and forth, and they've been doing it their whole careers. Usually from Europe to Argentina, which is a long flight, and then back to Europe, right? So they'll be fine. It's interesting because decision day was the same thing, right? And you had the international break and then decision day, and Javier Mascherano chose to rest Noah Allen and Ian Frey because they had been away. Noah with Greece, with the Greece youth team, and Ian with Jamaica. I don't imagine he's going to rest anybody, right? Who's been traveling, not for a conference semifinal. You don't do that. So, right. How do these minutes that are going to be minutes and miles traveled that are going to be put on everybody, how will that affect them? We'll see. I tend to think conference semifinal, the game's on Sunday. That's one extra day. That's helpful. Right. Everyone will be fine. I don't know what the plan is. You could even fly people if straight to Cincinnati. I guess you wouldn't do that given the games on Sunday, but I think everybody will be all right. They travel comfortably. You mentioned the atmosphere. It's great there. TQL Stadium is one of the best in MLS, one of our favorite places to go and call a game. It's a beautiful building, maybe the best of the soccer specific stadiums. One certainly to, compare Miami Freedom Park to when that opens up next year. And the atmosphere is great. Like you said, it'll be a very loud and partisan FC Cincinnati crowd. It's not going to be, half and half in Cleveland, half and half at Arrowhead, half and half at Gillette Stadium, at Soldier Field, whatever it is. There'll be Messi fans. There are everywhere. Like, you've been traveling around for a couple of years with them. So have we. We've seen them in pretty much every away environment that they've been in. But this one, come playoff time, it'll be heavy Cincinnati, which that's how it should be, right? I mean, look, I think we have so enjoyed seeing, again, the reception for Lionel Messi around the world, around the country, and in the different cities. But the games we prefer calling are the ones where there's a hostile away environment for Inter Miami, just because it's more fun. And, it's a playoff game. It should be that way, right? For every team going on the road, it should be hard and it should be hostile, whether the team features the greatest and most popular player of all time or whether they don't. So it'll be great at TQL Stadium. No doubt about it. It'll be rocking on Sunday.
Who's your biggest surprise, you would say, so far in the playoffs, and who's impressed you the most through the first round, going into this final 8 now?
It's a good question, because it was heavy chalk, right? I mean, the only underdog, so to speak, only lower seeded team to advance were New York City. And I don't know that, to me, that was probably, obviously, to 4-5. So it's one of the tighter series. I actually think maybe my biggest surprise was Minnesota advancing over Seattle. Because Miami knows quite well about Seattle come knockout time, and they're really good. And I thought that they would kind of go into Leagues Cup mode, and with that team, and to be fair to Seattle, they played 3 games, they won 1 of them, they drew 2 of them, and the 2 that they drew, they lost in penalties, and so they're out. And that's the first time that's happened in this format, and that was kind of a thought experiment when the format was announced. Hey, this could happen, and but they know the format going into it. So does Minnesota. Everybody's playing with that in mind. So I don't think it's unfair for them, but I think they acquitted themselves pretty well. New York City, I thought, were the better team in their series against Charlotte. So yeah, I don't know that there's a big surprise, to be honest. I think everything has again kind of gone to chalk. Maybe don't even say it's a surprise that Cincinnati were dominated in game 2, right? I mean, that was an interesting series, because game 1 and game 3 were pretty even, and in Cincinnati just they found a way to get it done. Game 2 was not. From the opening kickoff, it was a destruction. Columbus just were fantastic. They won 4-0. Yeah, they had a red card, but they controlled the game. That surprised me, that every game of that series wasn't as tight, but Cincinnati ended up winning the series. So yeah, it's gone to chalk, to be honest. And I think, on the field, probably what you'd expect. And now I think the drama comes in these one-off games, a little more difficult to predict throughout the league. I mean, Vancouver LAFC in front of a sold-out BC Place, Sun versus Mueller. Yeah. That's going to be fantastic. Philly, New York City's interesting. They've met in the playoffs several times prominently. There's a little rivalry there as far as coming to playoffs. And then San Diego, Minnesota. Can San Diego, keep this dream run going? Seems like they can. But I think Minnesota's a tough matchup for them. So yeah, it's I think the drama is to come now. And there hasn't really been that big shock yet in the playoffs this year.
Yeah, Inter Miami knows all about Minnesota. They handed them one of those tough losses on the road earlier this year too. So that's a team that definitely one to be reckoned with for sure.
Yep.
And they have a very good goalkeeper. And we saw last year when Brad Guzan, when there's a really hot goalkeeper, you never know if someone has one of those games. Minnesota has a very good keeper, and it will not be easy even for Lionel Messi and all these guys to score. They would be a tough if it did come to that. The final would be in Miami, no matter what. No matter
Correct.
what, it's at Chase Stadium if
Yes.
Miami's in it. So That is one benefit that Inter Miami has.
Yeah, exactly. So they know if they get through the East, they'll host, but they also could be faced to 2 away games to get there, of course, right? I mean,
Yes.
they're going to Cincinnati, and if Philadelphia beat New York City, and if Miami win, they would have to go on the road for the Eastern Conference Final as well. But it's got to be nice to know if you make it to MLS Cup, you're at home and you can host it. And that would be quite an event, wouldn't it be? In South Florida, MLS Cup with Messi's.
And that would be the last game. It would be the last game at that stadium too.
Yeah. What a way to send it out, I suppose. A stadium that I don't think was meant to host this quite when it was built, right? No. It wasn't meant for this magnitude of games, and you guys have seen it. We've been there so many times. They've done a wonderful job in adapting to everything that comes with Messi and Boosie and Suarez and Jordi and all the celebrities that have come to this, is still a temporary stadium. The nicest temporary stadium in the world, I think. But yeah, Miami Freedom Park will be welcome, won't it?
Yeah, definitely. And Boosie's finale, if it would be Boosie's finale, Alba's finale, you got to throw all those layers in there too. I mean,
and we still don't know about Suarez, and we don't know about Suarez yet. He hasn't said.
Cincinnati just retired Darlington Nagbe this weekend.
Right,
they ended his career.
Yeah.
They'll want to end Boosie and Jordi's career as well.
Yeah, this is a doozy of a road game. I mean, like the way you were describing it, that in that environment, you could not at all count this as any, like, we can look past it as spectators and commentators and reporters, but they have to be so locked in.
Oh, I think this is
locked in.
I think this is one of the marquee games that if you could, kind of pick the playoffs and pick your elimination games where the season's on the line and you're to pick your matchup league wide. Well, Miami at Cincinnati would be top tier for games that you want to see, you want to watch. This is
well, the ticket prices, by the way, I checked the ticket prices yesterday. The cheapest ticket, the very cheapest ticket you could get was $300.
Yeah,
there was nothing under $300, and this is not for the final. This is a conference semifinal. The cheapest ticket was $300, and they were going up, to close to $3,000. So it's
great.
It's a hot ticket.
I mean, it's a hot ticket. It's not great in the sense that, of course, you want tickets to be affordable, right? But it is great from a league and American soccer's perspective that there is such demand to go watch this game that it's something we talk about, the get-in price for big NFL games or big NBA games, the NBA finals, right? You talk about the get-in price. When we're talking about the get-in price for MLS games, it's a good thing. It means the league is healthy and things are going well.
Well, Jake, thanks very much for joining us. We appreciate you. We'd love to have you on at some point down the road. Hopefully, if we keep this going a little longer, it's up to Inter Miami, obviously, but thanks for joining us. We really appreciate it. And thanks for being a listener of the show.
Anytime, of course.
A viewer.
Yes. Hey, big time, big listener.
We just had our 100th episode. We celebrated our 100th episode.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It was big. Well, we'll have you on again. We'll keep your email address.
Do it.
All
anytime. Right. Great to talk to you guys.
Thanks, Jake.
All right. Thanks. Thank you so much. Thanks, Jake.
All right. Well, we'll wrap this puppy up with talking a little bit about Michelle's experience. Let's just call it an experience of being at the AAA last week at the American Business Forum, and Lionel Messi, who had an interview with the mayor of Miami. How did that go, Michelle? And tell us a little bit about what the Messiah had to say at the AAA.
Yeah, well, as you know, he doesn't do, he doesn't do that many interviews, and when he does, it's in a very controlled setting with somebody that he's comfortable with. I was curious to see how it was going to be. I was surprised actually that he was going to this conference, but this is a big world business leaders and politicians, and it also Serena Williams was one of the speakers, and Rafa Nadal. So there were some sports. It was not a bad trio right there. You have Messi, Rafa Nadal, and Serena Williams were the sports heroes that were there, and then President Trump spoke, which made the whole thing. There was Secret Service everywhere. You had to get there very early. There were bomb sniffing dogs everywhere. It was a lot of commotion with having the president there. The Argentine president was also there. Milei, the president of Argentina, was also there. And all kinds of big dignitaries, Jeff Bezos, business leaders who spoke. But yes, Lionel Messi had a nice interview with Mayor Francis Suarez. And he talked about how leaving Barcelona was very hard for him because he had been there since he was, 13 years old. And to go to Paris, he said that Paris was fine. He and his family actually liked Paris. but he was not having a good time soccer wise. He said it just wasn't going on the field and with the club, with PSG, the way he wanted it to, and he was not happy. And he's very happy here. He said it's really nice to choose where you want to go. And they chose as a family, he and his wife Antonella chose that they wanted to be in Miami. They wanted to be in the United States and be part of Inter Miami. And he said that they're incredibly happy here, that the transition has been so much easier. He was asked, he said that he's becoming an NFL fan, that he said in the past, he would basically watch the Super Bowl because that's all that you could see overseas and that's all he really knew. But now that he's here and his sons have been watching and his sons have been playing football, American football in the schoolyard, in addition to playing, of course, soccer, he said that as a family, they are now watching regular season games. I don't know if they're Dolphin fans or they're fans of another team, but he said that, he's become somewhat of an NFL fan. And the other thing was of note was that he talked about the World Cup. And, the big question is he going to play in the World Cup? Is he going to play in the World Cup? And he said he wants to. It's such a special event. He would love to play in the World Cup, but he only wants to do it if he's feeling right. He has said it before. He doesn't want to be a burden. He doesn't want to be out there if he's not feeling right. Then that's not fun for him. It's fun for him when he's feeling fit and he's feeling that he's going to help the team. So he said he's going to take it day by day. There's plenty of time. And that's when he's going to make his decision. Obviously he wants to be there. It's big. It's in the United States and Canada, Mexico, but he hasn't said 100%. He said it's going to depend how he feels.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be nice for him to have a swan song. We thought it was a swan song 4 years ago, but apparently he has a shot at least of maybe making it this one. And he's a good look. They don't put. I've noticed from watching Argentina more recently, he's not so much the focal point like he used to be. Now a lot of the newer talent is more the crux of the offense, the attack and whatnot. So it's good. It's almost like they're slowly maybe transitioning away, getting used to like now a lot of the new players are going to depend on. But he can still be a good mentor as he's been here for Inter Miami for a lot of those Argentine stars as they're coming up.
Right, and he still can do it. I mean, we can see what he can.
Guys like him.
Yeah,
and he can contribute. He's not just standing there and running around. But I sort of mean that he's not like.
He can still.
Yeah. So it's a
they're
good thing.
They're not
on
all
both
deferring
sides.
to him every second. Right. They're
Exactly.
not deferring to him every second, but he can still do what he can do. We're seeing it. And yes,
If
this
needed,
is MLS and so on, but
right.
He has magic in his hat that nobody else has. And so you would want that. If you are the Argentina national team for so many reasons, how are you not going to have Messi on your team? And I would think Messi, is he going to start? Is he not going to start? But he's going to be on the team. I don't think you have a World Cup in the United States and Lionel Messi's not on the team. I just don't see that.
If he's able, he goes. And again, what an asset to have too for them in terms of just the knowledge, the mentorship too. Like I'm saying, like he can have, and in critical moments, maybe he's not the top scorer, but in a critical moment, he might just get that goal you need. And we've seen it for many World Cups, how all those games seem to sometimes come down to like a 1-0, especially in the knockout stages. Maybe he can get that one, and that's why you have him there. So we'll see what happens. Yeah, it'll be interesting. We can still our next episode next week, we'll still be able to talk even more about Inter Miami and Cincinnati. We'll talk a little bit about this FIFA break. Knock on wood, nothing happens and everybody comes back from everything okay, healthy, safe, and sound. And we will really dive and give our last bit of previewing of this big Eastern Conference semifinal matchup and how critical it's going to be, not just from the obvious standpoint of being a single elimination season on the line, but even from a franchise perspective like we were doing before. Because we know, as we talked about this the whole episode, there's a lot riding on each step of the way for this team to not come up short. The pressure's still on to not come up short of this MLS Cup trophy that they need to show.
Yeah, they're 3 games away. I mean, Noah Allen said in one of the interviews he said, we're not done. The job is not done. He said we are 3 games away from winning MLS Cup.
Right.
We are 3. That's how they're viewing it. They are 3 wins away from lifting the cup and sending Boosie and Jordy off with a trophy, which they would love to do. So there's a lot riding on this next game.
Yeah. And the last thought before we sign off, I wonder too if like it's almost like being in that knockout stage of a World Cup. You know what I mean? It's the single elimination, do or die every round. They know how to do that. Like, especially the stars of this team are used to that.
They've all done it.
They've been in that
They've all
before.
done it.
So I think that's going to be a
Yes.
boon, that experience. It's not the same names, not the same teams, but that experience of that pressure, single elimination once a week that we're back to now, instead of the grueling schedule that they had most of the season. So maybe it'll
Right.
benefit. We'll see.
Yep.
We'll be back next
Yep.
week.
We'll
Michelle
see.
and I will be back to talk about it, to give it, like I said, to give it a one last look over and then see what happens. But until then, thanks everybody. Thank you, Jake Zivin, for joining us. And we hope you enjoy the international games and the ones beyond. We'll see you next week to talk a little more on Inside Inter Miami. As always, we appreciate you and see you next week.